So, for tonight's homework, I want you to watch this video and take notes in your notebook based on what I'm writing. So your notes should look just like my notes. If you need to pause the video at any point, you can, but make sure you take notes and bring them to class. So for this video, we're going to be talking about angle rules and relationships. So angle rules and relationships. And we're going to be talking about a couple of different types of angle rules. So angle rules and relationships. The first one is complementary angles. So complementary angles. And complementary angles are two angles that add up to 90 degrees. So two angles that add to 90 degrees are called complementary angles. So the way this could show up in a problem is if I know that I have two angles here that add up to 90 degrees, and this one is 48 degrees, and I want to find out what that one is, then I could write an equation based on this, and I could say I'm going to make this one x, which is my unknown. So I'm going to say x plus 48 equals 90. And then to solve that, I would draw a line through my equal sign. Since I have this plus 48, I'll subtract 48 from both sides. And I would get x equals 90 minus 48. I have to borrow from the 90. So that becomes 8, and this becomes 10. 10 minus 8 is 2. 8 minus 4 is 4. So here, my x, or this missing angle here, would be 42. So I could say x equals 42 degrees. So that's complementary angles. The other way you could be asked it is you could have it written in words. So it might say two angles are complementary if one is 31 degrees. What is the other one? And this is a different way of asking that same question, which is just, if I know the two angles are complementary, then I know they have to add up to 90 degrees. So if one of them's 31, I know that the 31 plus whatever missing angle that I'm trying to find equals 90 degrees. And again, I could solve it the same way. I'm going to subtract the 31 from both sides. And I get x equals, and here again I have to borrow, so this becomes 10, that becomes 8. 8 minus 3 is 5. 10 minus 1 is 9. So I get x equals 59 degrees. So that's complementary angles. So we're going to learn about three kinds of angles. The first one's complementary. And the second one is two angles that add up to 180 degrees. And so two angles that add up to 180 degrees are called supplementary angles. So supplementary angles are two angles that add up to 180 degrees. Two angles that add to 180 degrees. And again, we could ask these questions in two ways, either from a picture or with words. So on a picture, you could see two angles that add to 180 degrees being maybe two angles that are on a line. Let's pretend that line's straight. So if I have a straight line and I say this one's 143 degrees and that one's unknown, then I know these two angles are supplementary because they add up to 180. And so to solve that, I could first write an equation saying 143 plus x equals 180. And then I'll draw a line through my equal sign. And then I subtract the 143 from both sides. So I subtract 143, subtract 143. Here I get x equals, here I have to borrow. So this becomes 10, that becomes 7. So 10 minus 3 is 7, 7 minus 4 is 3, and 1 minus 1 is 0. So I get 37, which means this angle here would be 37 degrees. Or similarly to the first example, I could ask it in words. So I could say two angles are supplementary if one is 32 degrees, what is the other one? And so again, here you have to know that supplementary angles means they add up to 180 degrees. So if I know that one of them is 32, I could say x plus 32 equals 180. And then to solve that, I would subtract 32 from both sides. So I get x equals, here I borrow, so I get 10. That becomes a 7. 10 minus 2 is 8. 7 minus 3 is 4. 1 minus 0 is 1. So my answer would be 148 degrees. And that would be my missing angle. So that's two kinds of angles. So we've gone over complementary angles, which add up to 90 degrees. Supplementary angles, which add up to 180 degrees. And then the third one that we're going to go over are called vertical angles. And vertical angles are a little tricky because it does not actually mean up and down, even though vertical means up and down. In geometry, vertical angles mean something very specific. So vertical angles are two angles that share a vertex, and a vertex is a corner, and are formed by intersecting lines. And I'll draw a picture in a minute. So two angles that share a vertex and are formed by intersecting lines, but do not share sides. And so what that looks like is they're formed by intersecting lines and they share this corner vertex, but they're the angles that don't share sides with each other. So that's like this angle here and that angle there. So a thing to know about vertical angles is they're always opposite each other. And they're always equal to each other or congruent. So that means if I know this one's 35 degrees, I could just say, oh, I know because they're opposite each other that this one's also 35 degrees. So that's the third kind of angle that I wanted to talk about. So make sure you've taken notes on all three of those. And then we will try to solve some problems involving angles next class.